Hello, and welcome to the Movie Universe. I'm your host, Movie Fan. Today, I'm going to be doing something really special. This year is the 20th anniversary for the Legendary Anime Series Inuyasha, so I decided to talk about it. Now, Inuyasha was one of the first anime TV shows that I watched back in the day, because, I had recently gotten the satellite dish, so I was looking for stuff to watch, and that was one of my first. And when I watched it, at first I was confused because it's one of those kind of shows that when you first watch it, not knowing what you're looking at, you pretty much do this.
What the?
But after a few episodes, you catch on and you really grow to love the story and how it all goes. Now, I could tell you the whole story, but that would take a while because there are actually 7 full seasons. 8 if you count the final act, and I do. But I'll give you basically a little overview. The story starts off where we meet Inuyasha, a half-demon, who basically has stolen the Shikon Jewel, but he is thwarted by the priestess Kikyo, who is mortally wounded. She's cremated, and the jewel is cremated with her. 500 years later, we meet Kagome Higurashi. She ends up going to the old well that resides in the back of their house, and she's pulled in by a creature with multiple arms, and she's transported to feudal Japan, where Inuyasha resides stuck to the tree. We learn that Kagome is actually the reincarnation of the priestess Kikyo. She frees Inuyasha, and after a little bit, she subdues him with some magic beads that make him slam into the ground every time she tells him sit. Shortly thereafter, the Shikon Jewel is taken, and, Kagome trying to fire an arrow for the first time, she ends up breaking the jewel, and the shards just spread all over feudal Japan. So she and Inuyasha have to go gather all the jewel shards and then figure out what to do about the jewel later. Because the jewel grants demons incredible power, which of course Inuyasha wants to use the jewel to become a full-fledged demon instead of a half-demon. Along the way, we meet Inuyasha's brother, Sesshomaru, who is a full-fledged demon, and he hates Inuyasha with a passion. Because, full-blooded demons despise half-demons. Even if they're related, they hate them. But there's also another reason. It's because when their father died, he bequeathed a magic sword called Tetsaiga to Inuyasha, and Sesshomaru wants Tetsaiga. And there's a small quest to get the sword, which doesn't take too long. And after a short time, Inuyasha learns how to use it. Along the way, they meet a young fox demon named Shippo, whose father was killed by 2 demons known as the Thunder Brothers. And later on, Kikyo is brought back to life by a demon witch who wanted to get her hands on the Shikon Jewel. And it is at this point we find out that Kikyo and Inuyasha were actually lovers, and they both swear that they were betrayed by one another, which led to him being stuck on that tree for 50 years in feudal Japan, and of course Kikyo's death. Along the way they meet Moroku. Moroku is a Buddhist monk who carries a powerful curse in his right hand. It's basically like a black hole that sucks in everything, and eventually it'll spread and suck him in. It's a very dangerous and very powerful curse, which he does use to his advantage to slaying demons. He calls it the Wind Tunnel, for the obvious reasons. And it is from Moroku that we learn about Naraku. Naraku was the one who killed Kikyo and framed Inuyasha for it. And he was also the one who put the curse in Moroku's hand. And it's at this point we find out who the real enemy in this story is. And shortly after learning all this, we meet Songo, who is a talented demon slayer whose clan was killed by Naraku. And she was actually conned into thinking Inuyasha was responsible for it. But she soon realized who the real culprit was, and so she joins the team. And of course, the final friend they meet along the way is Koga. He is a wolf demon who has his heart set on Kagome just shortly after he meets her. And, it's easy to see why, because she really was beautiful. But, of course, because of that, he and Inuyasha get into a spat all the time. Koga, of course, is a special case because he's got a Shikon Jewel shard in each of his legs, which gives him the ability to run at great speed. And throughout the series, that did prove to be useful. Koga would be a recurring character that would pop in and out every now and again, but he was never a mainstay character. And pretty much for the rest of the show, they're going around the countryside, gathering jewel shards, slaying demons, and of course, going up against Naraku, until finally, they get the big showdown in Inuyasha, the final act. What happens? That, I'm afraid you're going to have to find out on your own, because that's a show with such intricate detail that I could spend all year trying to talk about it. And that's the truth. And I know you'd be bored to tears if I did. Now, this series actually had a huge impact on pop culture. Like I said before, it was my first anime TV show that I actually grew to love. And I loved it so much, I ended up collecting a whole bunch of things that were being sold. And there were a lot of things that were being sold. There was Inuyasha seat covers, floor mats for your car, little plush toys, video games, and of course, I came across something very unexpected. And you're not going to believe me when I tell you this. Some time ago, roughly when I just got out of high school, I came across this. This is actually a blade of Inuyasha's sword, Tetsaiga. And if you're thinking that this is just a prop, no, it is not. It is real. It is actually made out of real metal, and I've never seen one like it before or since. And I'll tell you this, it was an incredible find. I literally found this in my town just being sold. And of course, I had to buy it because I knew exactly what it was. And yes, this is real metal. You could tell by the shine and just by this alone. So, yeah. And believe it, and this sucker probably weighs about a good 30 pounds. I'm not kidding. So, yeah. I'll just put that away for the time being. But yeah, it's a maybe one of these days I'll do a whole little video talking about it. It's pretty cool. But there's never been a show that's had such a huge impact in pop culture as Inuyasha has. Because for a lot of people like me, we hadn't heard of anime much or watched it too often. Like, for instance, I knew about Dragon Ball Z, and I watched a few episodes, but I could never really get into it. I don't know why, I just couldn't. But when Inuyasha came around, that got me interested in anime big time. And of course, not only was there a series, Inuyasha also had 4 movies, which I'll probably cover one by one later on. And I'll be asking a very big question later too, but not today. It's been 20 years since Inuyasha hit the scene, and even now, it is still an incredible show to watch. Because you got all this great stuff with them fighting demons, trying to outwit Naraku, and he's a tough nut to crack because he is brilliant. He is absolutely brilliant. Very seldom does he actually participate in a fight. Most of the time, he manipulates people and demons to do his dirty work for him. And of course, he creates demons and demon puppets to take on Inuyasha and his friends. But that's one of the things that makes Naraku so interesting and so dangerous. Of course, when you talk about Inuyasha, you got to talk about the cast. Inuyasha, of course, is played by Richard Ian Cox, who does a great job playing him. He acts all cocky and just like a jerk at times, but at the same time, he could be sensible. Richard Ian Cox would probably be best noted for such shows as, well, Inuyasha, of course, this would be his most famous of them all. He would also be well remembered for playing Quicksilver in X-Men Evolution, and he'll also be noted for other shows such as Bob the Builder and the Black Stallion TV series. Kagome is voiced by Monica Story. She can be sensitive, caring, and she can show a bad temper when she's ticked off. She's a well-noted voice actress for playing in shows such as Hamtaro, X-Men Evolution, and Sabrina's Secret Life. Jillian Michaels plays Shippo, does a pretty good job there, kind of a comedy relief character in a way. Kirby Moreau is great as Moroku, definitely one of the best, because I love the way he plays him because Moroku has a bit of a devious side in himself. He likes to, let's just say he can't keep his hands to himself when it comes to women. He's probably best noted as playing Cyclops in X-Men Evolution, as well as Moroku. That was probably his greatest role, as well as playing the Black Ninja in the TV series Ninja Go. Songo is played by Kelly Sheridan, and she does a superb job. I love her voice when she gets mad at Moroku for doing his thing. Kelly Sheridan is probably one of the most well-known ones in this saga because she did a ton of Barbie movies. Koga is played by well-known voice actor Scott McNeil. Now, Scott McNeil, he probably is more recognizable than Kelly Sheridan because of his voice and because he was in a ton of shows. He was in X-Men Evolution, he played Wolverine. He was also in Mega Man, the animated series from the 90s, Kong, the animated series. He played Bat Hound in Crypto the Superdog. And of course, he was in Bionicle Mask of Light and Bionicle Web of Shadows. And of course, he played T-Bone in the short-lived series Extreme Dinosaurs. Paul Dubson is Naraku, and he is great. I love his voice. He is perfect, absolutely perfect. Just one of those voices that just sticks with you. You can't help but love it. He's actually got quite a few TV shows under his belt, such as Kong the Animated Series, Ninjago, Reboot, and Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Heroes. And of course, Sesshomaru is played by David Kaye, who is a great voice actor in his own right. And he plays Sesshomaru so perfectly. Now, David Kaye is a very recognizable voice, and I'm sure the name sounds very familiar because he did a lot of shows as well. Probably his most legendary would be Beast Wars Transformers. He played Megatron in that one. Most noted because of his famous catchphrase,
Yes! 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 Yes!
He was also in Ben 10, 3,000 Miles to Graceland, the recent failed movie The Eternals, and of course he was in the short-lived series Shaolin Chronicles. Like I said before, the cast is always one of the things that makes a show great. And the way Viz Media edits this stuff, it is great, absolutely great. It is spot on. You almost can't even tell that the lips don't match. Almost. Because they do a good job of matching them up very well. And believe it or not, Inuyasha is not only just a great series, it's also the only show in existence to literally have two finishers. And I don't mean like an alternate ending kind of thing. What I mean is, the show ended on season 7, and in a pretty bad way. What happened was they survive one of Naraku's traps, they don't get him, he gets away, and they just run off into the sunset saying they'll hunt him down to the ends of the earth. That's what happens. And the fans were so mad that we were all demanding a rewrite. And then in 2009, we got our answer when they announced that there was going to be a final season, which was appropriately titled Inuyasha, the Final Act. And there we get the ending that we wanted so badly. And I'm not kidding. It all comes together in this season. It does have some quirks, like there's a episode where Shippo the Fox Demon is going through some kind of a Fox school challenge thing, and we don't know who is behind all this. We never see this person who is handing out these grades. They're just coming from the wind, and he's pulling mean pranks on people. That's what they get graded for. And we don't know where this is coming from and who's behind all this. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the same episode, he runs into this girl who has a magic sword that started to absorb the power of Inuyasha's sword, Tetsaiga. But it turns out the sword was cheaply made, so it didn't take long to break it. My point is, it went from that to that out of nowhere with no explanation at all. So, yeah, there's weird moments like that that come around that don't add up. But either way, the show is great, and it was a great finisher. It was the ending that we wanted. And we're so glad that we got it, too, because that's what they should have done years ago. Unfortunately for the final act, David Kaye and Monica Story did not reprise their roles as Sesshomaru and Kagome. Why Monica Story didn't do it, I don't really know. As for David Kaye, he had retired from voice acting at the time, so they had to get somebody else. And this guy's not bad, but David Kaye was better. If you ever have the time, you might want to check this show out. It is phenomenal. It is absolutely incredible. I'm positive that you'll fall in love with the characters and the story just as much as I have. And definitely check out the movies. So if you ever have the time, check it out. I'm pretty sure you'll love it. This is Movie Fan, signing off.